Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to episode 26 of Monorail Memoirs. Today we'll be talking about what is the best time of year to go to Walt Disney World. Florida is an inhospitable land. Florida should never have been industrialized by humans. Yet we did it, and so we'll talk about when's the best time to go. Before we get into that, as always, Lauren, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. And I just cannot take my eyes off that shirt. I absolutely love your shirt. Is it a Roosevelt?
It certainly is a Roosevelt's. This is the Haunted Mansion shirt that I believe came out last year now, although I think I may have got it in January of this year, possibly in May. It could actually be this year, thinking about it. It could actually be this year. I got it from Riviera, of all places, but of course you can get it, in other places. Other outlets are available. And because I'm a DVC member, yes, I got my discount on it, so it was 20% off, which made it slightly more reasonable because it was still sort of a $65 shirt. It's quite expensive. I see that you have a Spirit jersey on.
I do, yes, and I got this from the outlet, which is where I get all my clothes from Disney.
So, for those who don't know, the outlet, so in Premium Outlet Mall is a shopping mall in Central Florida, and they have a character warehouse shop, which is a Disney shop where they sell end of the line, items, which are they are not some cheap knockoff. They are literally staffed by Disney members. It is ran by Disney as a corporation, and it is where all of Disney's look at that Walt Disney World, fantastic. It's where all of Disney's clothes that get to the end of the line, end of production, go to be sold. Not just clothes, also trinkets as well. Little knickknacks. Highly recommended if you're interested in shopping and you have got the time to move away from the parks and go to Premium Outlet Mall. But today, Lauren, we're going to be talking about when is the best time of year to go to Walt Disney World. Some of this is opinion. I wish to say that right out the gate, because I know that some people love going, for example. There's a huge thing often to go, for example, on the 4th of July. Obviously, Americans, 4th of July is a national holiday over here. I have been to Disney on the 4th of July. I'm never doing it again. It was so busy, whereas in Magic Kingdom, they implemented a one-way system. I don't mean one way on Main Street. I mean literally Tomorrowland, Fantasyland, all the way around, and then going back to Main Street. So,
and those sort of days that sell out as well, aren't they?
The park got closed because of the number of people that were there. Yes, park was at capacity. So I have no interest in that. But we're going to talk about when we think is the best time of year to go and some of the logic behind it. I have a calendar here. What was the TV show that was like, and here's what I made earlier? What was it? Was it
Art Attack? Yeah.
Yes, that's a very specific sort of reference for the British audience here. But here is a calendar. Specifically, this happens to be 2026, but that's just coincidental. So the first thing I want to talk about, as we build this together so we can get a real good, accurate picture as to when we think the best time to go is if you want the lowest crowds, there's a few times. So the lowest crowds, late January, and I have to say late January because the Disney Marathon weekend is usually the second or third weekend in January. So you want to avoid that like the plague because that is busy. And having done it and then hobbled around the rest of the time is quite bad. So late January is an option. Late April, early May, before you get into any Easter holidays and that sort of thing, is another good time. And then late September, early October. For DVC members such as myself, early October and late January are usually two of the cheapest point windows on the year, which is sort of an indicator perhaps of the lower demand. We'll discuss DVC in another episode, but the idea being that the amount of points per night that a resort cost fluctuates depending on time of year. The busier times of year, that you would end up spending more points per night than on the quieter times of year. My apologies. So October, for example, early October is a great time because it's usually quite cheap points per night. The lowest crowds, though, are only one element. I mean, Lauren, how much does your experience change when the crowds are lower?
Yeah, massively to me, absolutely. You're able to get things done. If you don't want to buy the lightning lanes or if you don't have a disability access pass, that does kind of get you on the lightning lanes essentially. it's really hard to get things done that you really want to get done, especially if, you know, we go on about this once in a lifetime holiday, all that sort of stuff. If you are going for a once in a lifetime holiday, definitely choose a time of year that is really, really quiet, because you'll then be able to get all of your, well, not all of your list, because that's impossible, but the majority of your list done. And you won't feel like you're just wasting your holiday standing in crowds, children getting cranky, all that sort of stuff.
I completely agreed. Completely agreed. There's something about being able to walk around Disney and it doesn't feel too busy. But if I'm honest, the only times I've experienced those lately is when, because I've been staying in DVC resorts, and means I've had deluxe access to the extra magic hours. So that's the only time I felt that it's quiet. And even then, of course, the sun's gone down and it's a little bit of a different scenario. So we've talked about the best. We talked about the best time for crowd size. Let's talk about weather for a moment. So, weather in Florida is very unpredictable. Is a fair assessment. Now, if you like things being 100 degrees and 90% humidity, go in the middle of June, go in the middle of July, crack on. That's not how I prefer to do it. If we want to think about when the Florida is sort of mild, you know, it's pleasant. There's not too much humidity. The rain is not sort of monsoon like. You've really got two windows. One is late February through early April, and the other one is October through November. Just an observation on the October through November one. The experience might be slightly different in Magic Kingdom for you, because they'll have all the Halloween decorations up, as they do right now. Halloween is a lot bigger in the US than it is in the UK, although it is growing in popularity. The Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, however, in Magic Kingdom is a hard ticket, additional paid event, meaning that you will lose some hours in Magic Kingdom on those days. So you just got to be aware of these things. But Lauren, the hurricanes that you'll sometimes get in sort of September time can be awful. The heat in the middle of July is oppressive. You've got family, small children. Well, how's the weather really affect your experience?
Yeah, massively. I mean, we've taken the children at really strategic times of year, you know, when it is a bit quieter and a bit cooler, just for their enjoyment, really, because, you know, if we're absolutely boiling and you're worried about, you know, you might have a baby who, you know, you're worried about their temperature, it's really hard to enjoy your holiday when you're constantly thinking, are they overheating? Are they too hot? Is the fan on them? You know, is the sun blaring down on them? Is the parasol on them? You know, there's a lot of different things to think about. And also when you have toddlers, their little legs can't go as fast. And so if it's hot and humid, then they won't want to walk everywhere. And so that's an extra strain on you. You know, you might have to carry them for a little while. And not only that, for adults as well, you know, it kind of harbours your enjoyment of things. If you're constantly going from aircon to aircon to aircon, you're not really taking it all in as well. And I know that we will come on to it, but some of the hottest months are also the busiest ones. So it's just a perfect storm, isn't it, really? You know, you've got the horrible weather, the horrible crowds, all mashed together, and you just think, why on earth do people rave about Disney if that's the only one time that you're going?
I completely agree. It can be so oppressive, and people forget about the rain as well. Like the monsoon rain, and it goes in a flash. When we talked about our video as to what to pack and not pack in Walt Disney World, it's one of the reasons why I say spare socks, because that flash can come down. It might only last 20 minutes, half an hour, but then you are sodden the rest of the day, and it can be quite sort of depressing. We've spoken about weather. Let's talk about something else that matters: value. You know, the Disney prices fluctuate. Worth pointing out, if you're purchasing a sort of, a 7-day pass, 14-day pass, whatever, the prices don't really change. If you're buying a day pass, they will change. Now, actually, I believe that as of a couple of weeks ago, the $200 mark has been hit.
Yes.
Which is an excessive amount for one day, but there you are. People keep paying it. And actually, as a sidebar, Disney's argument in this has always been the feedback they receive most from guests is that the parks are too busy. So by their own admission, what they're doing is they are increasing prices above inflation to try and eke people out of the park. The reality is the parks division continues to make more money year on year. So not only are they able to squeeze people for more money, it seems to not be deterring too many people. I've not seen the crowds really change that much. We'll see, depending on what happens, economically speaking, over the next couple of years, because there are those commentators who think we're on the verge of another recession. So we will see. With that being said, though, we want to talk about value now. So when is the time for the best value in terms of the cost of resorts, in terms of flights, etc.? So late January and early February is a really good shout. The weather hasn't quite got great yet. It's still a little bit chilly in areas. I remember the Disney Marathon weekend when I was stood at the start line. It was honestly, it was about sort of 5 degrees on one of the days. It was actively cold. That's 5 degrees Celsius, not Fahrenheit. No, people shouldn't freak out too much. It wasn't that bad. Late August into September is another really good shout for value. But I just want to say, caution. September is usually hurricane season, which is why there are so many offers on at that time of year. It's because people don't really want to go. And in addition, American school holidays are different from UK school holidays. So the American summer holidays, they break up earlier than we do, but they go back earlier as well. They do have a longer period overall. Depending on where you go, it's probably about 10 weeks, but they do have a longer period overall. But it does mean that come September, most, if not all, US schools have gone back. Whereas I believe, Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a couple of weeks in September until the UK ones go back.
So it depends on which school you go to, but some go back the first week, some will go back the second week.
Oh goodness, that's earlier than I realised. Nevertheless, it's one of the reasons why it's cheaper. So if value matters, that can certainly be an option as well. And the final thing I want to talk about is what time should we avoid? Now, for those who have eyes and are looking at this particular presentation, you can probably work out when to not go. But I want to explain why. So let's start with mid-March. Spring break. Spring break differs depending where you are in the country, and then depending where you are in the US. But spring break is heaving with college students. I couldn't recommend enough to not go there. Lauren, we were there when it was Festival of the Arts was opening. If the Figment bucket line, how busy was it?
It was absolutely crazy. People were queuing for, I think it was something ridiculous, like 10 hours for a popcorn bucket. And
I think it was half that, but yes, it's still a ridiculous amount.
But the queue was snaking around the whole park. You know, people were looking at this queue thinking, what on earth are they queuing for? And it was for a flipping popcorn bucket. Unreal, I can't get over it.
Yeah, Figment popcorn bucket. Insane. Absolutely insane. June and July and August is just so hot. Just so hot. I strongly recommend avoiding that. And then Christmas and New Year is another really busy period as well. You know, some people do that for the, you know, it's a family thing, and I understand it, but it means it's really busy. What this means though now is we can see some windows of opportunity. So we can see late January has got a really good overlap between value and crowd size is a really good overlap as well. Late September into early October, similar story. There are some periods that are neither good nor bad. So if you think sort of late May time, schools haven't kicked out yet, it's not too busy. Late November, the weather isn't too bad, but they are ramping up towards the Christmas period. And of course, the Christmas decorations in Magic Kingdom do bring a certain draw in themselves. There are other special events, things such as the Food and Wine Festival, such as Flower and Garden, that do have some draw that we've not mentioned on here because those dates do somewhat fluctuate. But if it was to be my recommendation, I would suggest late January is a great time. The weather isn't too bad. Prices are reasonable. Flights, if you're coming internationally, aren't bad either. I will say though, just be prepared. You're probably not going to be jumping headfirst into some swimming pools because it could be a little bit chilly. Lauren, when's your preferred time to go?
Yeah, so we've been kind of mid to late January last time, and that was really good. I mean, as you say, it could be a little bit chilly very early on in the morning. There was a little bit of hint of frost there, which frost in Florida for me just does not compute at all, because obviously when we were younger, we used to go during the summer holidays. But yeah, I would definitely recommend like mid to late January. The flights are much cheaper, and the crowd levels aren't too bad either.
Well, there we are. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a somewhat of a conclusion. Late January is a great time to go. Again, there's a few assumptions there. Children are in schools and things, and for those who are tied to that schedule, I'm afraid it's pretty busy, in the summertime. So it's something to take into consideration. As always, we thank you for your attendance this week. If you would like to follow us, Instagram and TikTok. If you'd like to subscribe, that'd be amazing. If you have any questions, get hold of us. We'll talk. You know, we run everything ourselves, unsurprisingly. We will join you again next week, as we always do. But until then, please stand clear of the doors. Bye, everybody.
Bye.